city or county in the state of Florida have seen their general fund budgets, that portion of their budget that gets funded by property taxes, explode anywhere between 60 to 120%. We have seen a spike in property values with the corresponding spike in property taxes, and local governments are taking that money, expanding government, paying people within the bureaucracy some pretty big raises, and they are just wasting dollar after dollar, wasting dollar after dollar, your tax dollars. Now, as you can see right here, this was pulled from the Tampa Bay Times, and I had predicted this, and they're going to continue doing this. Local elected officials are already playing defense and trying to justify their wasteful, bloated budgets. They're saying, and you can see it on the board right here, the increases are largely attributable to inflation and rising population, not government graft. I disagree with that statement. I think we proved that statement to be wrong in Orange County. We are going to prove it to be wrong again here today. We beg to differ. Hold on to your hats. Because unfortunately, some of the numbers that we are seeing out of the city of Jacksonville are worse than what we are seeing in Orange County. According to our calculations, the city of Jacksonville is overtaxing and overspending your money to the tune of almost $200 million. So just so everyone can understand how we got to this number, and I'm sorry, the big government apologists can go out there and try to sizzle their way around this, and they can try to deflect all they want, but the reality is, this number is the amount that you are all being overtaxed here in the city of Jacksonville. So how did we get this number? What we did was we went back 5 years. We started off with the 2019-2020 fiscal year budget, right? We went 5 years forward to the 24-25 budget. And I know this is hard for some in the media to get because people were getting at Orlando. It's like we didn't understand. Was it 4 years? Was it 5 years? Was it 6 years? No, that's 5 years. Okay? I could do the math in crayon for you guys if you want. 2019 to 2020, what we did was we went back to that year and we moved forward and indexed that number every year for inflation and population growth. We indexed it every year from year to year to year to year to the end of the year. So when we got to 24-25, we actually put in not one, but 2 additional spending buffers because we know government doesn't run efficiently. So we actually accounted for their inefficiency, and we added 2 more additional buffers, and we got to what the budget should be under normal, sane circumstances with people who are somewhat fiscally responsible with their money. And they were $200 million over that number. That's an astounding number, and I'm going to tell you, the number in reality is probably higher. Probably in the $230 to $240 million range. So we today are deeming $200 million of Jacksonville's budget as excessive and definitely wasteful. So the question is, how did we get here and what can we actually do about it? In Orange County, over the past 5 years, 2019-20 year to 24-25 fiscal years, the general fund budget, remember that is the part of the budget that is funded by your property taxes, increased $692 million over 5 years. That is a 50.28% increase. That is an astounding number. And you can see how that number outstrips and outpaces inflation and population growth. There is no way that that comes anywhere close to that. Local governments at all levels, this number specifically, they are using to grow government at your detriment. Now, first, I think what everyone should know and realize is that, again, growing government with that number. That eye-popping increase in the general fund budget of over $559 million, or was it $559 million? I forgot what the number was. Of $692 million is for a population increase of only 56,605 people. $692 million for 56,605 people. Now, to put that in context, Putnam County has only 50,000 residents, pretty close to that. Their whole budget to deliver services to that county is only $57 million. So please don't tell me you needed all this money to deliver services to the residents of Jacksonville. It doesn't jive. So what does it mean? It means that for every person that moved into the city of Jacksonville over the last 4 years, the budget grew by $12,232 per person. For every family of 4 that moves into the city of Jacksonville, the county budget grew an astounding $48,928. Those are obnoxious numbers. Absolutely obnoxious numbers. Now, I want you to think about this because I think this is important. Let's say that you are a new family that comes into the city of Jacksonville and you buy a brand new house. And let's say that house, you pay $6,000 worth of property taxes. Let's say the house you pay $8,000 worth of property taxes. Heck, let's say you're currently paying $9,000 worth of property taxes, and you're a family of 4. You're paying $6,000, $8,000, $9,000 into the system, and the city of Jacksonville is paying almost $49,000 to deliver services to you guys. That math does not math. There is absolutely something wrong with that. I hope, honestly, none of these people ever try to run a business. That's a quick way to go bankrupt, let me tell you. They're using population increase as and population and inflation as an excuse to expand government beyond their wildest dreams, which is why it's turning into a nightmare for people who live in the city of Jacksonville. Now, to make matters worse for taxpayers, take a guess how many new employees the city hired to accommodate for those 56,000 people. 646 people to accommodate just for 56,000 people. A really startling stat that we pulled that's not on these cards is that for every 88 people that moved into the city of Jacksonville, they added 1 government employee. Let me repeat that. For every 88 people that moved into the city of Jacksonville, they added 1 government employee. Whatever happened to economies of scale? Normally, as volume goes up, price actually goes down. That's how the private sector works. You know what also works that way? State government. When you look at what we do at the state, you see that as our budgets have been growing, as the population has been growing over time, the number of workers in the state actually have been going down because people are becoming more productive. We are automating things. Now, the city of Jacksonville employees are getting some pretty hefty raises also. Over the last 5 years alone, actually, excuse me, this number's 4 years. Over the past 4 years, their salaries have increased over 23.5%. That's more than the private sector, and it's a lot more than what state government employees are making here in terms of increases over the last 4 years. What really frustrates me about this number, and it frustrates me beyond belief, is that the private sector is having a hard time making ends meet. You're going out and you're asking for raises from your private sector employer only to turn around and pay it in property taxes so somebody at government can get bigger raises than you are. That's a little frustrating. In addition, on top of that, I know that law enforcement and your first responders aren't getting those types of raises. They're sitting there having these contracts trying to get 2, 3, 4% every year. Now, a lot of the budgets for your local government, your general fund, are law enforcement. They are first responders. But if the average is 23.5%, what are the bureaucrats at the top getting in terms of raises? So every time, this is one of the reasons why I'm so sympathetic to the law enforcement cause. Because I know every time when local governments are faced with cutting budgets, the first thing they do is demonize law enforcement. That should not happen, and it's not going to happen on my watch. I'm going to call them out. So the question is, how much are taxpayers actually being fleeced? How much are you, the city of Jacksonville taxpayers, actually being fleeced by your local government when it comes to paying taxes? Today, I'm here to answer that question on behalf of Orange. I still have Orange County on here. Sorry about that. City of Jacksonville taxpayers. Now, again, just to reiterate how we got these numbers, we started off with the baseline budget. We worked forward, indexing for inflation and population, and added not one but two of those buffers. So, according to our calculations, with the $692 million in excessive wasteful spending, the city of Jacksonville could easily reduce the millage rate by 1.19 mils. Easily, not even worry about it. They can cut property taxes. They can cut your property taxes and not even skip a beat. Now, that's real money put back in the pockets of people who live in the city of Jacksonville. That's real money that will be put in the pockets, that should be put in the pockets of the taxpayers of Jacksonville who've been funding this reckless, bloated budget for at least 5 years. How much? Well, if you have a home that has a taxable value of $300,000, you would save about $358 a year. That's not even including school board taxes. Don't get me started on the amount of money that school administrations waste. $358 a year on $300,000. If you have a home with a taxable value of $400,000, you'll save $477 a year. $500,000. $597 a year. This could all be done very easy without government ever skipping a beat. You know how I know this? We've been through this rodeo before. In the mid-2000s, the same thing that is happening today happened in the mid-2000s. We had people buying houses, property values were spiking, property taxes were spiking. There was a property tax revolt that resulted in an additional homestead exemption being put on the ballot. Governments had to cut. They kept on telling everyone years before they can't cut. They were going to have to, you wouldn't be able to have fire come to your house if your house was burning down. I see a lot of people shaking their heads. Yeah, that's what they say. If you're lying in a dead street, no one's going to be able to save you. Crime is going to go through the roof. We've been through this rodeo and we've been through this parade of horribles before. Constitutional amendment came. They cut. Were any of your service disrupted? No. It's a game that they play in order to try to keep their wasteful, bloated budget. Since we're talking about homestead exemptions, let's discuss how we got into the situation in the first place. We originally had a $25,000 homestead exemption, right? When that was put on the books, the average home in the state of Florida was about $75,000. So the original intent of the homestead exemption was to shield about a third of your property from taxation. So when the tax revolt came in the mid-2000s and we wound up with an extra property tax homestead exemption, it looked something like this. Your first $25,000 is taxed. Your next 25 is not taxed. It's exempt. Your next 25,000 is not taxed. The next 25,000 of that is exempt, but there's an exemption for the exemption in the school board. Once you mix it all together, you're at about $39,000 of homestead exemption. Right now, in the past, the homestead exemption shielded about a third of your property. Now it's only 9%. That's one of the big reasons why everyone here is feeling the effects of high property taxes, because the homestead exemption is outdated. It doesn't work for today's landscape, and because the local governments are spending us into oblivion. Governments are wasting money left and right. The city of Jacksonville is wasting money left and right. But at the same time, they're also crying poor, and they're wanting more, more, and more. The people have had enough, and so have I. Your property taxes have been going up, not because essential services are expanding, but because of excessive waste in government and spending by career politicians who think you are an endless ATM. And you know what? It won't work anymore, because we are going to get property tax relief done. If it's not done at the local level, it will be done at the state level with the constitutional amendment. It is always good that we remind government that it's not their money, it is our money. So at this time, I'd like to call Mr. Skylar Zander up here from Americans for Prosperity for some comments.
Man, it's great to have Chief Financial Officer Blaise Ingoglia here. I'll tell you, I've known Blaise for a very long time, and it's great to see him back in his stomping grounds doing what he loves the most, and that's holding government accountable to the people and the individuals who matter most, and that's the people that are trying to put food on their table at the end of the day. It's absolutely crucial that we hear the numbers that CFO Ingoglia, I forgot we got a new CFO. I still got to remember that every now and again. But our new CFO, Blaise Ingoglia, it's absolutely crucial that we use the numbers that he set here to start the conversation with the citizens of Jacksonville. It's not enough to have brave, bold council members that are here, standing here saying that we need to cut the millage rate. It takes each and every single one of you taking a step forward and having conversations with your neighbors to make that difference. It's on you at this point. You've seen the numbers. You know how crucial it is. It's time that you guys go forth and educate the public from here. And at Americans for Prosperity, we're fortunate that we get to empower everybody every single day to have these conversations at the door. Doors to doors matter. Phone calling matters. And that's what each and every single one of you are going to have to do in order to make a change. It's not enough that here at the state level, you have Senator Yarbrough working with then Senator Ingoglia to make sure that there's a balanced state budget. Is it perfect? No. Are they happy with everything that's in that budget? No. But here's what I can tell you. It's balanced, it's fiscally responsible, and it moves the state forward as quickly as possible. It's half the size of the state of New York, who has just about the same population as we do. Think about that. The state is so efficient that it is population-wise the same exact size, but we spend about half as much as on our state budget as the great state of or as New York does. And so it is great to have Chief Financial Officer Blaise Ingoglia here, back in his stomping grounds, and making sure that government is under control, bringing back the government gone wild days, which I love to hear more about. And it's great, and it's my honor to welcome up Senator Clay Yarbrough to the podium to give some remarks as well.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. CFO Ingoglia, thank you for the tireless and ongoing and hard work that you and your team are doing. It's very important, but all Floridians benefit from the hard work that you're doing. So thank you for that, and please keep up the good work. Fellow residents of Jacksonville, government spending in our city is out of control, as CFO Ingoglia has pointed out today and backed it up with the numbers that he's presented. The people of Jacksonville have made clear that they want action from their local elected officials to reduce their taxes. The increase in government spending, as highlighted by the CFO, is shocking, but sadly, it's not totally surprising. We are seeing this trend in local governments across the state, and while we do have some members of our city council, as Skylar has mentioned, who are demonstrating prudent leadership on this issue, it is long overdue that all local elected officials start listening to the taxpayers that pay their salaries. Florida families do not want their hard-earned tax dollars spent recklessly, and they do not want to see their property tax bill rising year after year. So often excuses are made, like the CFO has said, in an attempt to explain away rising spending by blaming inflation or rising populations. But as he explained, the City of Jacksonville is spending far above what it needs, even when taking inflation and population growth into account, and even accounting for the very essential needs that we have, like public safety, roads, etc. Efficiency, accountability, and restraint must become the standard, not just in our city, but in every city and town in Florida. Instead of expanding budgets and inventing new ways to spend, we need leadership that understands this basic truth. Every dollar the government spends is a dollar taken away from the hardworking people of Florida who earned it. Every dollar the government spends is a dollar taken away from the hardworking people of Florida who have earned it. Here's the bottom line. Property taxes are too high, government spending is out of control, and the people footing the bill, Jacksonville's taxpayers, are being stretched to the limit. Those taxpayers are the bread and butter of our economy. They drive local businesses and build our communities, not through bloated government programs, but through everyday hard work, smart investments, and personal responsibility. It's time to respect the taxpayer again, and it's time to get serious about smarter spending, smaller government, and a tax system that works on behalf of the people, not against them. CFO Ingoglia, thank you again for the incredible job you're doing diving into the data, shining the light of transparency, and exposing what these budget increases really mean. I'm very grateful for your leadership on these issues, and I look forward to continuing to fight alongside you to lower costs for all Floridians as we head into the next legislative session.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So with that, I will take questions from the press, knowing that they're going to follow up with the mayor and get the excuses for the big spending later. Jake. Yeah, look, I would say that if I was the administrator, or I don't know, the administrator overseeing some of this stuff, it's up to the policymakers to come up with the decision on how much they should cut. They should go and figure out exactly what they can cut. But I can tell you this, is that when you factor in the way we factored everything in, we factored in law enforcement raises. We factored in inflation for purchasing. We factored in inflation for the purpose of giving people raises to index for inflation. We factored all of that in. Once you factor all of that in, they're still $200 million too high. And here's the problem. That governments, this is a game. They'll go in, they see this extra money, and they try to build out government so it makes it harder to cut later. And that's one of the reasons they sit there and they say, well, we can't cut, because they've sort of built it to cut. The problem is, for them, is that if it was built before at a much lower cost, it can still be built again at a much later cost. That's why we saw that in the mid-2000s, where they actually had to cut their budgets and didn't skip a beat. So we're telling the City of Jacksonville, the council members, that they can easily cut way over $1 million, and they should not worry about impacting any services whatsoever. In addition to that, we're always talking about the P&L side, right? The revenues and the expenses. That's what the general fund budget is. There's a pot of money that they have over here in reserves and investments that they can pay for that stuff. So on one hand, they'll cry poor, but the second, they're sitting on hundreds of millions of dollars in what you would will as their savings account. there's more than enough money for them to do what they need to do. Yes, sir. We've accommodated for that. We've accommodated for that in the number. What we are saying is that over and above those, 200 million is excessive and wasteful spending. We've already accommodated for first responders raises in those numbers. Yes, sir. Yeah, look, I've been very clear on this. The spending is not just a Democrat problem. It is a Democrat and a Republican problem. We are seeing it across all levels of government. Republicans and Democrats alike are taking this extra money and they're expanding government. I actually think that a lot of elected officials don't know exactly what the bureaucracy is doing underneath them because they're policymakers. They're not administrators. So, but to that point, I will tell you, looking at the budget numbers for the city of Jacksonville and going back to the prior administration, the current years, to the Deegan administration, Deegan's spending is on steroids. Have local governments' BS excuses been reviewed by an independent? If they want to come and review their information, all they're reviewing is their own information because we're pulling it from them. We're getting it from them. No, they said that they were blurred because Mayor Demings doesn't know how to read his own damn budget. Because we tweeted out and we showed him exactly where they got the information from. Here's another thing. We came out and said that their population increased 79,000. Right? He came out and said, no, it's way more than that. It's 129,000. You know where we got the 79,000 number from? Him. It's their numbers. We are just telling people exactly what their numbers are saying. Because quite frankly, all of you, everyone who's listening to my voice right now, they're busy. They're trying to make ends meet. They're paying high property taxes. There's a housing affordability issue here in the state of Florida. They do not have the time nor the energy to go in and start picking and looking at these numbers. All we're doing is taking government's own numbers and sharing it with you guys in a way that lay people can understand, because property taxes relief is on the horizon whether local governments want to admit it or not. It's their information. It's their budget numbers. We're not making it up. It's their budget numbers. Well, only press, guys. That's a question for these guys. I can't answer the information. I'm not lobbying. I've never lobbied them for what they should do. All I'm doing is I'm presenting the voters with the information so they can make informed decisions. Now, obviously, we have 3 council members here who I know have been fighting for reduction of property taxes. They took the time out of the day to listen to these numbers. I'm wondering where some of the other ones are. So number one, I'm not going to get involved in negotiations with first responders, fire, or police unions and what they're going to do in terms of their negotiations with local governments. I'm just not going to get involved with that. What I will tell you, and I continue to advocate for, is that the first rule of government, the first thing government is supposed to be doing is taking care of the residents. You do that by funding fire and funding police as the first thing. So I'm not going to get involved in that, but what I can tell you is that we stand by our first responders and making sure that they have the stuff that they need in order to do their jobs. They will not see any change in services with that millage rate cut that we are saying that they can cut. See, we're already starting off with the premise that all of a sudden if we cut taxes, that services are going to suffer. That's just not the case. It's never been the case when we cut taxes before. It's not going to be the case now. Yes. Well, first of all, we need to define what is a want and what is a need, right? Fire and police is a need, not necessarily a want. What we are seeing through our Doge efforts is that a lot of money being wasted on wants that probably shouldn't be spent on in the first place, and a lot of just stuff on frivolous stuff. It's just a fact of the matter that is what it is. That the stadium. What I can tell you about the stadium is that the amount of budget that was increased of $692 billion, the amount of people that the city of Jacksonville increased could fit inside that stadium. That's how minuscule the population increased. But again, the stadium and all that funding is a discussion that the administration needs to have with the policymakers on that. I'm not here to tell them exactly what to cut. I'm here to go over just how excessive and wasteful the budget has become, how bloated the budget has become over 5 years. Citizens depopulating? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm going to make this the last question because I do have to get on the road. I will say that the reforms that were put into place a couple of years ago, the lawsuit reform, have been working. We saw 15 new companies writing in the state of Florida. You are seeing a depopulation of citizens because you have people, private companies coming in and taking some of those stuff out. What we need in the state of Florida, and I think the reforms have done this, is a stable, vibrant insurance market where insurance companies can do business in the state of Florida and compete and drive down rates. And we are seeing that right now. But I will tell you this, is that I am not here to protect the profits of insurance companies. I am not here to protect the profits of trial bar attorneys. What I am here is to protect the policyholders who have those insurance policies. Guys, I appreciate what you guys are doing, holding elected officials accountable. I very much appreciate you guys coming here, listening to the presentation so we can give you some of the information and arm it so you can go back to city. I know there are other members of the city council that I know personally couldn't be here today for certain reasons, and I know they are working hard in order to reduce property taxes for the people of the city of Jacksonville. Guys, thank you for everything that you do. This is hot. Okay.
Yes, sir.